My name is Thea Westbrook. I'm 28. Last Tuesday, I sat in a lawyer's office and watched my entire family celebrate getting millions from my grandfather's will, while I held a yellowed envelope with nothing inside but a phone number. My sister laughed so hard she had to grip my mother's arm. My uncle raised his coffee like a toast. The attorney just sat there, hands folded, watching me the way you'd watch someone open a door they can't close again. Everyone in that room had already spent their inheritance in their heads before the ink dried. And me? I was the punchline. The college dropout. The girl who sells chairs for a living. They'd written me off years ago, and Grandpa's envelope was, to them, the final proof. But here's what none of them knew. Not my mother, not my sister, not my uncle with his self-appointed title and his Cadillac. They didn't know what happens when the punchline picks up the phone and dials. Before I tell you the rest, if you enjoy this kind of story, take a moment to hit like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely mean it. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love knowing where you're listening from. Now let me take you back to last Monday morning, the day before the will reading, when I got the call that Grandpa Harold was gone. The phone rings at 6:14 a.m. I know because I'm already up, lacing my boots for the early shift at Birch and Stone, the furniture shop I manage in Holden. It's my mother. Diane Westbrook doesn't call before 9 unless someone's dead or she needs something. Today it's both. Your grandfather passed last night, she says. No tremor. And no pause. The attorney is reading the will tomorrow at 2, Harmon and Pace, Newark. Dress presentable. She hangs up before I can say anything. I sit on the edge of my bed and press my palms flat against my knees. The room is still dark. Outside, a truck downshifts on Route 16. Grandpa Harold, 82 years old, built Westbrook Properties from a single duplex renovation in 1981 into a commercial real estate operation spanning 3 counties, 40 employees, 6 active developments, a name that means something in central Ohio. But to me, he was the man who kept sawdust in his shirt pockets and taught me how to sand a table edge until it felt like water under your fingers. Every Sunday, his workshop. Every Sunday, just us. I drive the 40 minutes to Granville. His house sits on 2 acres of old maple and gravel. When I pull up, but Nora's Lexus is already parked sideways near the porch. My sister never could park straight in a hurry. Through the kitchen window I can see her pacing, phone clamped to her ear. Uncle Victor is on the porch, bourbon in hand at 9 a.m., talking to his wife in a voice he probably thinks is quiet. Finally, he says, it's time. My mother meets me at the front door. She looks me up and down, leans in close. I spoke with the attorney already. He's leaving everything to the people who earned it. She lets that sit. Wear something nice tomorrow, Thea. She walks away before I can ask what she means. But I already know. 4 months ago, Thanksgiving, this same house, 14 people around Harold's dining table, and I can still hear every fork. My mother stands at the head. She always takes over the announcements, and even in her father's house, and starts the round robin. She does this every year. Each person shares a win. Nora closed her second funding round for PropLink, my mother says, beaming. MBA, Case Western, now building real technology. The table claps. Grant, Nora's husband, squeezes her shoulder. Victor goes next. He talks about a development in Licking County. Uses the phrase strategic vision twice. Then it gets to me. And Thea, my mother says. She pauses the way a comedian pauses before the punchline. Thea is still at that little furniture place. She tilts her head. Selling chairs. Laughter, not loud. The polite kind that cuts deeper. I look down at my plate. Green beans and sliced turkey. From the other end of the table, Grandpa Harold taps his glass. Once, the room quiets. Thea manages that entire store, he says. Inventory, staff, accounts. That's called responsibility. My mother waves a hand. Dad, don't baby her. Victor leans over. If she wants to be taken seriously, she should go back to school. Harold says nothing else. But later, after dessert, After Victor's third scotch, after Nora leaves early, I find him in the workshop. He's sitting on his stool, running his thumb along a piece of walnut. He looks up at me, holds my gaze for a long time. Don't ever believe a diploma tells people who you are. His voice is quiet, steady. I've taken care of things, Thea. I don't ask what he means. I wish I had. Tuesday morning. I put on the one blazer I own, navy, 2 years old, bought for a job interview I never went to, and drive my Honda Civic to Newark. The parking lot at Harmon and Pace is already a showroom. Nora steps out of her Lexus in a tailored black dress. Grant trails behind with a leather briefcase, like he's heading to a deposition. Victor rolls up in his Cadillac Escalade, sunglasses on, even though it's overcast. His wife stays in the car. My mother arrives in an Uber. She sold her car 6 months ago. I know this because I saw the listing online, but she hasn't told anyone. People who owe money don't advertise it. Inside the lobby, Nora and Victor are talking in low, fast voices near the water cooler. 4 million in accounts at least, Nora says. Plus the properties, maybe more. Victor nods. And the company. That's the real question. Who runs it now? They don't notice me until I sit down across from them in the waiting area. Nora glances over. Her eyebrows lift a fraction. Oh, she says. You came. I don't answer. That's sweet, she adds. A small smile that doesn't reach her eyes. I'm sure Grandpa left you something. A card, maybe. I fold my hands in my lap. The fabric of the blazer is too stiff. I can feel the tag scratching the back of my neck. The conference room door opens. Roger Harmon, Harold's estate attorney, stands in the frame. Gray suit, reading glasses on a chain, expression carefully blank. The Westbrook family? We're ready. Everyone stands. Nora smooths her dress. Victor buttons his jacket. My mother lifts her chin. I walk in last. The conference room smells like old leather and printer ink. 8 chairs around an oval table. Portraits of former partners on the wall. Roger Harmon opens a manila folder and begins. Pursuant to the last will and testament of Harold James Westbrook, dated March of this year, Victor gets the Lake Erie vacation house and $800,000 in cash. He nods like he expected more but will take it. His hand finds the table, taps once. My mother receives the Columbus apartment and $600,000. She closes her eyes for half a second. Relief, not grief. Nora and Grant. 500,000 plus Harold's investment portfolio. Nora writes something in her phone immediately. Grant opens his briefcase, pulls out a folder of his own. They came prepared. Several cousins and the younger grandchildren receive education trusts, 200,000 each. Standard. No surprises. Harmon flips to the final page. And to Thea Marie Westbrook. Every head turns. One sealed envelope, it to be delivered directly and opened only by the named recipient. He slides it across the table. A yellowed envelope, edges soft with age. My name in Harold's handwriting. The ink slightly faded. This wasn't written recently. I break the seal. Inside, a single sheet of paper. A phone number in Harold's careful block letters. 10 digits. Below it, one line. Call when you're ready. HW. That's it. No check, no property, no account number. The silence holds for exactly 3 seconds. Then Nora laughs. It starts as a snort and escalates into something she doesn't even try to control. Must be for some shelter for you to live in, she says. My mother turns away, but I can see her shoulders shaking. She's laughing too. The whole room follows. Roger Harmon doesn't laugh. He closes his folder and watches me. But the parking lot is bright. Too bright. I'm standing next to my Civic with the envelope in my hand when my mother catches up. You see, she says. He knew you couldn't handle real money, Thea. That number is probably a financial counselor for people in your situation. She adjusts her purse strap. Call it. Get the help. Before I can respond, Victor appears behind her. He puts a hand on the roof of my car, casual, the way people do when they want you to know they're bigger than you. Listen, If whatever's in that envelope has anything to do with the company, that goes through me. I'm the COO. Have been for 10 years. He taps the roof twice. We clear? I say nothing. Inside Nora's Lexus, I hear her laughing with Grant. Then my phone buzzes. Group chat. The family thread I've been muted on for months. And Nora's message. Update. Thea got an envelope. Just an envelope. Grandpa's final joke. 3 laughing emojis from a cousin. A heart react from my mother. I sit in the driver's seat. Close the door. Lock it. The envelope sits on the passenger seat. Harold's handwriting stares up at me. Call when you're ready. My hands are shaking. Not from fear. From something else. The feeling you get when every person who's supposed to love you just proved they don't. And you're sitting alone in a parking lot deciding whether to believe the one person who did. I pick up my phone. Dial the number. It rings once. Twice. 3 times. A man's voice, calm and measured. Hello. I've been expecting your call. I grip the steering wheel with my free hand. Who is this? My name is Raymond Alcott. Your grandfather appointed me 20 years ago. But we need to talk, Miss Westbrook. I need to pause here for a second, because that moment, sitting in that parking lot with my phone pressed against my ear, was the moment everything split into, before and after. If you've ever been dismissed by the people who were supposed to believe in you, you know exactly what that silence feels like before someone finally says your name, like it matters. Hit subscribe if you want to hear what Raymond told me next. And tell me in the comments, have you ever opened something everyone said was worthless and found out it was everything? Raymond Alcott speaks the way attorneys speak when they've rehearsed something for years and finally get to say it. Your grandfather established an irrevocable trust in 2005. You are the sole beneficiary. I stare through the windshield as a pigeon lands on the hood of Victor's Cadillac. I don't understand. A trust? I can't discuss the specifics over the phone, Miss Westbrook. We'll need to meet in person. Bring valid identification, driver's license, birth certificate, social security card. Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock, my office in Columbus. I write the address on the back of a gas receipt. Mr. Alcott? Why me? He's quiet for a moment. When he speaks again, his voice is different. Less attorney, more human. Your grandfather told me something when he set this up. He said, "The one who comes when I fall. Not for what I can give, but because I fell. That's the one I trust with what I built." He watched his family for 20 years after that, Thea. You were the only one who showed up. My throat tightens. He also built in a condition, Raymond continues. If you never called this number, if you threw the envelope away or ignored it, the trust would transfer to a charitable foundation, permanently. Harold wanted the person who received this to come forward on their own. No prompting, no hand-holding. So if I hadn't called, everything would have gone to charity. Your family would have kept only what was in the will. I press my forehead against the steering wheel. The vinyl is cool. I'll be there at 10, I say. Good. And Miss Westbrook? Yes? Your grandfather spent 20 years making sure the right person would pick up this phone. You just proved him right. I hang up. And for the first time all day, I cry. Not because of money, because Harold believed me when I didn't even believe myself. That evening, yes, my mother throws what she calls a memorial dinner at Grandpa Harold's house. The Westbrook way of grieving. Open the expensive wine and divide up the furniture. Victor sits at the head of the table, Harold's chair. He doesn't even hesitate. I'll be taking over operations at the company, he announces, swirling a glass of Harold's 2012 Cabernet. Dad would have wanted continuity. Nobody challenges him. Nora is too busy mapping her 500,000 onto PropLink's burn rate. Grant has his laptop out at the dinner table, running projections. My mother lifts her glass. To Harold, she says, and to the family he provided for. They drink. I hold my glass but don't sip. Thea, my mother says, turning to me with that specific brightness she uses when she's about to draw blood in front of a crowd. Do you want to show everyone your envelope? I'm sure we'd all love to see the phone number. She laughs softly. Maybe we can all call and see who picks up. Three cousins laugh. Aunt Lillian, my mother's younger sister, doesn't. She watches me from across the table with an expression I can't quite read. Victor leans back. The company, legally, is still held in some trust Dad set up. But those things expire when the grantor dies, so it falls into the estate, falls to us. He says this like he's reading a textbook he skimmed on the drive over. He's wrong. Irrevocable trusts don't expire when the grantor dies. I know this because Raymond Alcott explained it to me 4 hours ago. But I don't say a word. I eat my dinner. I wash my plate. I leave before dessert. Victor pats my shoulder on the way out. Chin up, kiddo. At least you got something. Some people don't even get an envelope. I drive home with both hands on the wheel and the gas receipt with Raymond's address folded in my pocket. My apartment is 700 square feet above a dry cleaner on Main Street in Holden. The radiator clicks, the fridge hums. I set the envelope on the kitchen table and sit across from it like it's another person in the room. Call when you're ready. H.W. I remember the year I wrote those initials on get well cards every single day. I was 19. Harold had a minor stroke, left side weakness, slurred speech for 2 weeks. The doctor said he needed daily physical therapy and someone to manage his medication schedule. My mother said, he has a nurse. Victor said, I'm swamped at the office. Nora was in her second year at Case Western and didn't come home for 3 weeks. I dropped my semester, drove to Granville every morning at 7, helped him with his exercises, grip strength, balance drills, the slow walks around the property that he hated, and I made him do anyway. I sorted his pills into the weekly organizer, read him the newspaper when his eyes were too tired. 4 months later, Harold was back at full capacity. His doctor called the recovery remarkable. I never went back to Ohio State. The scholarship lapsed. Nobody in my family offered to cover tuition. My mother told her friends I just wasn't college material. Now I lay out my documents on the bed. Driver's license, birth certificate, social security card. I set my alarm for 7. My phone buzzes, the family group chat. And Nora has posted again. Talk to my attorney. Any trust Grandpa set up can be challenged if we prove diminished mental capacity. He was 82 with a stroke history. We have a case. Victor replies, Good. The company belongs to the family. I read it twice. Then I set the phone face down and turn off the light. Tomorrow, I walk into Raymond Alcott's office and find out whether Grandpa's last words to me were a promise or just a goodbye. Raymond Alcott's office sits on the 3rd floor of a limestone building on East Broad Street in Columbus. No flash, no glass tower, just a brass nameplate and a receptionist who knows my name before I say it. The office itself is small and ordered. Law books, a mahogany desk. On the wall behind Raymond, a framed photograph of 2 men standing in front of a half-built duplex, grinning. Harold, maybe 50, in a hard hat. Raymond beside him, younger, thinner, holding a set of rolled blueprints. That was 1993, Raymond says, noticing where I'm looking. First project we ever worked on together. He did the building, I did the paperwork. We never stopped. He opens a leather binder and lays the documents flat. In 2005, your grandfather established an irrevocable trust. I am the appointed trustee. This trust is entirely separate from his will. It does not pass through probate. It is not part of the estate. It cannot be affected by any challenge to the will. I nod slowly. The trust holds 100% ownership of Westbrook Properties, LLC, the operating company, the development projects, the long-term investment accounts. A current estimated value, approximately $38 million. The number sits in the air between us. I don't reach for it. Why me? I ask. I don't have a business degree. I manage a furniture store. Raymond removes his glasses, sets them on the desk. Harold said this to me, word for word, the one who dropped everything to help me when I fell.
That's the one I trust to hold what I built. He slides a signature page across the desk. You have 30 days to accept or decline. If you accept, ownership transfers immediately. There's also a personal letter from Harold, but it can only be opened after you sign. My pen hovers above the line. I don't sign yet. I need to think. Raymond nods. Take your time. That's exactly what Harold expected you to say. Before I leave, Raymond turns his laptop toward me and dials a video call. A woman appears on screen, short silver hair, reading glasses pushed up on her forehead, a no-nonsense jaw. Behind her, an open-plan office, desks, monitors, a whiteboard covered in project timelines. Thea, this is Margaret Donnelly, Maggie. She's been the acting CEO of Westbrook Properties for the past 3 years, since Harold's health declined. Maggie studies me through the camera the way a contractor studies a foundation, looking for cracks. So you're the one Harold talked about? I guess so. I don't need to know if you have an MBA, she says. I need to know if you're honest. Harold said you were. If you take this position, I'll stay on for 12 months to train you. After that, it's yours. I swallow. What does taking this position actually look like? A day-to-day? It looks like showing up, learning the projects, trusting the people Harold hired, making decisions when decisions are needed. She pauses. It also looks like dealing with your uncle. Victor called me 3 times yesterday demanding access to the CEO office. I changed the locks. Raymond interjects. If there's no confirmed owner within a reasonable time frame, Victor could petition for temporary management authority. The court may grant it. Maggie leans closer to the camera. There's something else you should know. In the last 6 months, Victor submitted over $200,000 in inflated expense reports through the operations budget. Harold flagged it before he passed, but didn't get the chance to address it formally. She lets that settle. That's one of the reasons Harold never let Victor take the wheel. The call ends. I sit in Raymond's office for another 10 minutes, staring at the photograph on the wall. 2 men building something from nothing. Harold chose me to keep it standing. I'm halfway back to Holden when my mother calls. I heard you drove to Columbus this morning. Small town. Someone saw my Civic on I-70, or Nora tracked my phone, or my mother simply has a network of people who watch for her. It doesn't matter how, it always gets back to her. Personal business, I say. Thea. Her voice drops into the register she uses when she wants compliance disguised as concern. If that envelope has anything to do with money or the company, you owe it to this family to share that information. I don't owe anyone anything, Mom. Silence. And then, we'll talk later. 20 minutes after that, Nora texts me directly. Not the group chat, a private message. That's how I know she's serious. My attorney says any trust can be challenged if we demonstrate lack of mental capacity at the time of creation. Grandpa was elderly, had a stroke. If you're hiding something, it'll be worse for you in court than if you just tell us now. I read it. Don't reply. Then Victor calls. His voice is warmer than usual, which means he wants something. Thea, sweetheart, I know Dad left you something. If it involves the company, let's just sit down, family to family. I can help you navigate it. That's what uncles are for. I appreciate the concern, I tell him. But this is between me and Grandpa. I hang up before he can pivot. Back at my apartment, as I sit on the edge of my bed and think about what Maggie said, Victor could petition for temporary management, and what Nora texted, worse for you in court. My phone buzzes again. It's a message my mother sent to Victor, forwarded accidentally, or maybe on purpose. She's not talking. I think your father left something bigger in that envelope than we thought. We need to see Roger Harmon tomorrow. They're circling, all 3 of them, and they have no idea what they're circling around. Thursday evening. My mother calls a family meeting at Harold's house. Not a suggestion, a summons. I pull up to 12 cars. She invited everyone, not just Victor and Nora, aunts, uncles, cousins from the secondary branches. 10 adults packed into Harold's living room, sitting on furniture he built with his own hands, the couch where he used to read.
The bookshelf he stained 3 times because the first 2 shades were wrong. Victor stands at the front of the room. He's positioned himself in front of the fireplace, Harold's spot. He's even wearing a blazer. We need to discuss the future of the company, he begins. I've been COO for 10 years. I know the operations. I'm proposing this family authorize me as interim director until we sort out the estate. Nora backs him immediately. And we need to talk about Thea's envelope. If it has any connection to estate assets, the family has a right to that information. Every eye in the room shifts to me. I'm sitting near the window, in the straight-back chair Harold used to pull up when there weren't enough seats. The envelope was addressed to me, I say. It's my personal property. It left to me specifically in the will. Victor turns. His voice hardens. Thea, you don't have a degree. You don't have business experience. You don't have a seat at this table. He steps closer. If my father gave you anything related to the company, it was the mistake of an old man at the end of his life, and we'll prove that in court. The room is silent. Nobody disagrees with him. Nobody looks at me. Except Aunt Lillian. She's sitting in the corner with her hands in her lap. She doesn't nod. She doesn't look away either. Victor isn't finished, but I can feel what's coming next. And it's not from him. It's from Nora. Nora stands. She's been waiting for this. I can tell by the way she smooths her skirt before she speaks. This is rehearsed. I'm going to say what everyone's thinking. Her voice carries the practiced clarity of someone who's pitched to investors. Thea is not qualified to manage a cent, let alone a company. She runs a furniture store in a town of 4,000 people. The annual revenue of that shop is probably less than Uncle Victor's bar tab. A few people laugh. An aunt I barely know shakes her head like she's watching something sad on television. Nora keeps going. Grandpa loved Thea, we all know that. But love is not a reason to hand someone a business. My mother lifts her chin, her signal that she's about to deliver the final word. I don't want to hurt you, sweetheart. She looks at me with the face she's perfected over decades, tender on the surface, steel underneath. But you're not ready. You never were. It's giving everything to Uncle Victor is the best thing for everyone, including you. I look around the room. Cousins who haven't spoken to me in years are nodding. Victor has his arms crossed, chin up, like the verdict is in. I stand. The room tenses. I heard everything, I say. My voice is level. I don't raise it. I'll be meeting with my attorney this week. After that, you'll all have your answer. I pick up my jacket from the back of the chair, walk toward the door. Behind me, Victor says, Your attorney? I don't turn around. Good night? The door clicks shut. I hear murmuring start before I reach the porch. That's the first time any of them have heard me say the words my attorney. And by the look on Victor's face, it won't be the last time he thinks about it. Friday morning, Raymond's office. I sign every page. A beneficiary acknowledgement. Identity verification. Acceptance of fiduciary responsibilities. My hand is steady. The pen is heavy. An old Mont Blanc that Raymond says Harold gave him in 1994. It's done, Raymond says. He slides a sealed envelope across the desk. Smaller than the first, cream-colored, Harold's handwriting again. This is the letter he left for you. It was only to be delivered upon your acceptance. I open it carefully. 1 page. Harold's block letters, slightly shakier than the ones on the phone number. He wrote this more recently. Thea. I watched this family for a long time. I love them all. But I know who will build and who will burn through. You were the only one who came when I fell and never asked what I'd leave you. You drove 40 minutes every morning. You sorted my pills. But you read me the box scores when my eyes couldn't focus. Everyone else showed up for Thanksgiving. You showed up in January. I'm not giving you money. I'm giving you responsibility. That's the only kind of inheritance worth having. Take care of what I built, and take care of yourself first. Harold. I fold the letter and hold it in both hands. The paper smells faintly of his workshop, sawdust and linseed oil. I don't know how that's possible, but it does. Raymond waits. The next step, he says gently, is a formal notification to the family.
I recommend we do this in a structured setting, at Harold's house, with documentation present. Do you have a preference on timing? Saturday, I say. 2 o'clock, Harold's living room. Raymond nods. One more thing. Harold included a no contest clause. Was if any family member challenges the trust, their portion under the will is frozen until the court rules. Could be 2 to 3 years. He knew they'd try. He knew everything, Miss Westbrook. That's why he chose you. Friday night. The group chat lights up like a switchboard. Victor sends a long message, unusual for a man who normally communicates in grunts and handshakes. Spoke with my attorney. Any trust can be challenged on grounds of diminished capacity. Dad was 82. Stroke history, cognitive decline. We have a real case here. Nora replies within seconds. Agreed. I need that $500,000 and then some. The company should have been divided among all of us. A cousin chimes in. Whatever Thea got, she should share. That's what family does. Then my mother, privately. Her message arrives at 11:47 p.m. Sweetheart, I'm trying to protect you. You don't have the money to hire a real lawyer. They'll bury you in court and you'll lose everything. The envelope, your dignity, whatever little standing you have left. Listen to your mother for once. Just hand it over. We'll manage it as a family. I read it sitting on my bedroom floor with my back against the wall. The radiator clicks. The dry cleaner below is closed. The building is silent. I don't reply. Instead, I text Raymond. Saturday, 2 p.m. Harold's house. Please invite the full family through Roger Harmon's office. He responds immediately. Already drafted the notice. I'll have it sent first thing tomorrow morning. Then I open my laptop and video call Maggie Donnelly. She answers from what looks like her kitchen, a mug of tea in hand. I signed today, I tell her. She sets down the mug. Good. Come to the office Monday. I'll walk you through the full operations portfolio. Maggie, what's the company's financial position right now? Strong, 6 active projects, 43 employees, 2 contracts pending signature. She pauses. Harold left you a healthy company, Thea. Don't let anyone tell you it's broken. I close the laptop and sit in the dark. Tomorrow I walk into Harold's living room, and this time I won't be sitting in the back. I want to stop here for a moment, because Saturday is coming. The entire Westbrook family is going to be sitting in Grandpa Harold's living room, and for the first time in my life, they are not going to be in control of the conversation. If you've ever been underestimated by someone who was supposed to love you, you know exactly why I needed this day. Stay with me. And if this story is hitting close to home, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Saturday, 1:45 p.m., Harold's house. The living room is full. Victor arrived early and took the armchair by the fireplace. The power seat, Harold's seat, the chair everyone gravitates toward because it faces the room. Nora and Grant sit on the couch. Grant has a legal pad. My mother is in the wingback near the window, legs crossed, jaw set. Aunts, uncles, cousins fill the remaining seats. Someone brought folding chairs from the garage. 12 people total. Aunt Lillian sits near the hallway, slightly apart from the others, the way she always does at family gatherings, present but not participating. They think I called this meeting to surrender. I can see it in Victor's posture, relaxed, legs spread, one arm draped over the armrest. And he whispers to my mother, "She'll cry, she'll apologize, then she'll hand it over." My mother nods. At exactly 2 o'clock, I walk through the front door. Behind me, a man none of them recognize. 67 years old, silver hair, charcoal vest, carrying a leather briefcase that's older than most of the people in this room. Victor straightens. "Who's this?" "This is Raymond Alcott," I say, "my attorney." Raymond steps forward, nods once to the room, and sets his briefcase on the coffee table. Unclasps it, removes a stack of documents. Nora squints. Then her face changes. "Raymond Alcott." She says it slowly. "Wait, you're the one who used to work with Grandpa. You did the legal work for the original property acquisitions." Raymond looks at her evenly. "That's correct." The room shifts. I can feel it. The temperature drops 2 degrees.
Victor uncrosses his legs. Grant puts his pen down. My mother grips the arm of her chair. Raymond pulls out a chair, sits, opens the first document. Please, he says. Everyone sit down. This won't take long. Raymond speaks without notes. He doesn't need them. In 2005, Harold Westbrook established an irrevocable trust with me as the appointed trustee. This trust is a separate legal instrument from the will that was read on Tuesday. It does not pass through probate. It is not part of the estate. It cannot be modified, dissolved, or affected by any challenge to the will. He pauses, lets that land. The trust holds 100% ownership of Westbrook Properties, LLC, including all operating assets, development contracts, and long-term investment accounts. The current estimated value is approximately $38 million. Nobody moves. The sole beneficiary of this trust is Thea Marie Westbrook. Victor's mouth opens, closes, opens again. No sound comes out. My mother's hand goes white on the armrest. Nora stares at me, then at Raymond, then back at me. Her face has gone the color of printer paper. Grant reaches for his legal pad. His pen shakes. Thea signed the acceptance documents 2 days ago, Raymond continues. Ownership transferred immediately upon her signature. This is effective and irrevocable. The silence is total. 12 people breathing, and not one of them making a sound. Then Victor is on his feet. The armchair skids backward on the hardwood. This is fraud. His voice cracks on the second word. My father did not have the mental capacity to create something like this. He was 82 years old. He had a stroke. Raymond reaches into his briefcase and places 3 folders on the table. Harold completed independent mental capacity evaluations in 2005, 2015, and 2023. All 3 were conducted by board-certified physicians with no connection to the family. The results are documented and notarized. He slides the folders forward. You're welcome to review them. Victor doesn't touch them. His hands are fists at his sides. The room fractures all at once. Victor points at Raymond. I was the COO, 10 years. I ran operations while my father played in his workshop. This company is mine. Raymond doesn't flinch. The trust was established before your appointment, Mr. Westbrook. Harold's ownership was never subject to internal titles. Nora stands so fast her knee catches the coffee table. So we get a few $100,000, and she gestures at me like I'm a piece of furniture. She gets $38 million? She sells chairs, Raymond. She didn't finish college. The allocation under the will and the trust are 2 distinct legal matters, Raymond says. Harold was clear about both. My mother turns to me. Her eyes are wet. I can't tell if it's anger or something older. You won't do this to your own family. Her voice wavers. Your grandfather wanted us together, not... Mom. I say it firm enough to stop her. You told me in that parking lot that Grandpa gave me the envelope because I couldn't handle real money. That you told the whole family at Thanksgiving that I was your disappointment. I hold her gaze. Don't talk to me about togetherness. The room is so quiet I can hear the clock on the mantel. My mother opens her mouth. Nothing comes. Then Grant, silent, calculating Grant, puts his hand on Nora's arm. We should go. No. Nora pulls away. We're going to fight this. We'll contest. The trust is irrevocable, Grant says, low and steady. And there's a no contest clause. If we challenge, our inheritance under the will gets frozen. Could be years. He closes his legal pad. Nora, we're leaving. Nora looks around the room for an ally. Finds none. She grabs her purse and walks out without another word. Grant follows. The front door slams. Victor leaves next. And he doesn't slam the door. He walks through it like a man leaving a hospital. Slow, measured, destroyed. My mother sits in the wingback chair. She hasn't moved. Her mascara has smudged under one eye. She stares at the carpet. The same carpet Harold chose 30 years ago because he liked the way it felt under bare feet. Raymond begins collecting his folders. If anyone would like to review the trust documents or discuss the legal framework, my office is open during business hours. He tucks the last folder into his briefcase. I advise against litigation. Harold anticipated every angle. The trust was designed to hold. He nods to me, shakes my hand, firm, brief, and walks to the door. One of the aunts moves aside to let him pass. Nobody speaks to him. The cousins start filtering out. Some avoid eye contact with me. One, as a man I haven't spoken to since I was 15, squeezes my shoulder on the way out and says nothing. Then it's me, my mother, and Aunt Lillian. My mother stands, smooths her blouse, walks past me without a word and out the front door. The Uber is already waiting. Lillian rises slowly. She's Harold's youngest daughter, my mother's quieter, less ambitious sister. She works at a library in Granville. She's the one who used to send me books in the mail with no note. She stops beside me, puts her hand on my arm. I always wondered why Harold kept that workshop going when nobody visited. Her voice is soft. Now I know. Someone did. She pats my arm twice and leaves. I stand alone in Harold's living room. His chair is empty. The clock ticks. Through the window I can see the workshop out back. The light is off, the door closed. I breathe out. All the way out. It's mine to protect now. Monday morning. The headquarters of Westbrook Properties sits in a 2-story brick building on Hamilton Road in Columbus. Nothing flashy. Harold didn't believe in flashy. Clean lines, good signage, a parking lot that's paved properly because Harold said you can judge a company by its parking lot. Maggie Donnelly meets me at the front entrance. She's smaller in person than she looked on video. Firm handshake, no small talk. I'm not going to baby you, she says, but I'm not going to let you drown either. Harold's instructions were clear. 12 months of mentorship, then I step back. She walks me through the building. 43 employees. Open plan workspace on the first floor, offices and conference room upstairs. A whiteboard in the hallway lists 6 active projects with timelines, budgets, and project leads. I don't go into the CEO office on my first day. Instead, I sit at the conference table while Maggie briefs me on operations. 6 developments in progress. 2 contracts awaiting signatures. A retail build-out in Westerville and a senior living facility in Lancaster. 1 personnel issue. Victor hired 3 family members into no-show positions over the last 2 years, Maggie says. She pulls up a spreadsheet. One of them is his son, Tyler, 24 years old. Title, Project Coordinator. He's been on payroll for 11 months and hasn't visited a single job site. What would Harold have done? 90-day performance reviews. Anyone who doesn't meet the benchmarks gets a standard termination with severance. Do it. Maggie nods. No surprise on her face. She expected that answer. I sign the 2 pending contracts after Maggie walks me through the terms line by line. No ceremony, no announcement, no selfie in the CEO chair. I drive home that night on I-70 with the windows down. The corn is high along the highway. I'm terrified. But I showed up. That's what Harold taught me. You show up. The call comes 4 days later. Victor's name on my screen. You fired my son. Tyler wasn't fired. He's been placed on a 90-day performance review, same as 2 other employees. If he meets the standards, he stays. Standards? I hired him personally. And he hasn't visited a single project site in 11 months. That's documented, Uncle Victor. A long, thick pause. Thick. I'm going to sue. His voice has the brittle quality of a man who says this often and means it rarely. Trust or no trust, I'll drag this into court. That's your right, I say. But Raymond sent your attorney a formal notice yesterday. If you contest the trust, the no contest clause activates. Your $800,000 in cash and the Lake Erie house will be frozen until the court reaches a verdict. That could take 2 to 3 years. Silence. The kind you can almost see. You're threatening me. I'm informing you. There's a difference. He hangs up. I sit at my kitchen table and press my palms flat against the surface. The same thing I do when my hands start to shake. This is my uncle. He taught me to fish when I was 7. He carried me on his shoulders at the 4th of July parade. But he also sat in Harold's chair before the body was cold and called me incompetent in front of 12 people. Love and damage can live in the same person. Harold knew that better than anyone. My phone buzzes again. Different caller. Nora. I almost don't answer. But her voice, when I pick up, sounds nothing like the woman who laughed at my envelope. PropLink is going under, she says. Flat. Quiet. I need to talk to you. Not as a sister. Just, I need to talk. I close my eyes. Coffee. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. The coffee shop is on High Street in Columbus. Neutral ground. Nora is already there when I arrive, sitting in the back corner with both hands wrapped around a mug she hasn't touched. She looks different. Not just tired. Reduced. Like someone let the air out. Grant wants a divorce if PropLink folds, she says. And no preamble. I put almost all of the $500,000 into the company. I've got $40,000 left. The product works, but I can't scale without capital. She stares at the table. I know what I said about your envelope. I know what I said about you selling chairs. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I didn't mean it at the time, because I did. She swallows. I was wrong. I take a sip of my coffee. Let the silence work. I'm not going to give you money, Nora. Her jaw tightens. But Westbrook Properties is actively looking for a tech vendor to manage our property portfolio. Scheduling, maintenance tracking, tenant communications. If PropLink has a product that meets Maggie Donnelly's standards, you can pitch it, formally, through the vendor process like any other company. Nora blinks. You want me to pitch? I want you to compete. If your product is the best option, we'll sign a contract. That's business. And if it's not? Then it's not. And I'll wish you well. She studies me for a long time. Something shifts behind her eyes. Not warmth, exactly. Recognition. You're different, she says. I'm not different. You're just seeing me for the first time. Nora picks up her coffee, takes the first sip, sets it down. I'll have the pitch deck to Maggie by Friday. I nod. We sit there for another minute without talking. It's the most honest silence we've ever shared. 3 months pass. Here's what happens when inheritance meets reality. Victor contests the trust. His attorney files on a Tuesday, argues diminished capacity, requests an emergency injunction. Raymond responds with the 3 independent capacity evaluations, 2005, 2015, 2023, all from board-certified physicians. The court reviews them in preliminary hearing and signals the case has no foundation. Meanwhile, the no contest clause freezes Victor's $800,000 and the Lake Erie property. His own legal fees hit $80,000 in 10 weeks. His wife Carol packs a bag and moves to her mother's house in Akron. She doesn't file for divorce, not yet, but the silence between them says enough. Tyler gets his 90-day review. He fails every benchmark: attendance, project knowledge, communication, basic deliverables. HR processes his termination with standard severance. He takes it quietly. I hear later from Maggie that he enrolled in an electrician's apprenticeship program in Newark. His own choice. Nobody pushed him. My mother burns through her $600,000 faster than I thought possible. $400,000 goes to debts from the divorce she won't discuss. $150,000 on a new car and house renovation. Appearances, always appearances. 3 months in, she has $50,000 left and no plan. Nora pitches PropLink to Maggie. The product is solid, a cloud-based property management platform with real potential. Maggie is tough on her. 3 rounds of revisions, 2 technical audits, but the system works. Westbrook Properties signs a 6-month pilot contract worth $120,000. Not charity, business. Grant pulls the divorce filing. And me. I'm at headquarters 5 days a week. I don't pretend to know everything. I ask questions that Harold would have asked. Is this good for the long term? Does this serve the community? Would I be proud of this in 10 years? I'm enrolled in an executive operations program online, not an MBA, something practical. I'm learning. That's enough for now. 4 months after the will reading, my mother calls and asks to see me. Not a summons this time. A request. We meet at a diner off Route 37, her choice. She's sitting in a booth when I arrive, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looks 10 years older than she did at the reading. She orders coffee. I order the same. I'm broke, Thea, She says it the way you say something you've been rehearsing in the car. The divorce took more than I let on. I used the inheritance to cover debts I should have dealt with years ago. I have 50,000 left and no income. I wait. I wasn't going to tell you, she says. But I don't have anyone else to tell. Why not Nora or Victor? Nora's barely keeping her own ship afloat, and Victor hasn't spoken to me since the meeting. She wraps both hands around her mug. I'm not here to ask for money. What are you here for? She's quiet for a long time. The diner hums, plates clinking, the cook calling orders. I was wrong. She says it to the table, not to me. About the envelope, about what I said at Thanksgiving, about all of it. You said I was your biggest disappointment, in front of the entire family. She closes her eyes. I know. Not I'm sorry, just I know. For Diane Westbrook, that's the most those words will bend. I set my mug down. I don't need you to apologize, Mom. Apologies are just words. I need you to stop telling people I'm your failure. When you talk about me to your friends, add to the family. I need you to stop. That's my boundary. She nods. Once. She stands, puts a 5 on the table, walks to the door. At the threshold, she turns. Your grandfather was right about you. Then she's gone. It's not healing, but it's a crack where the light gets in. 5 months in. Maggie drops a folder on my desk. A proposal Harold drafted 2 years before he died. A 36-unit affordable housing development in Holden, the town where I still live. The town where I managed a furniture store, and nobody thought twice about me. Harold wanted this built, Maggie says. Victor killed it, said the margins were too thin. Harold shelved it but never deleted the file. I open the folder. Site plans, cost projections. A note in Harold's handwriting on the cover page. This is where we started. We should give something back. What would it take to revive this? 12 months to build, about 4 million in capital. The land is already owned by the trust. Harold bought the parcel in 2018. She crosses her arms. It won't make us rich, but it'll house people who need it. Approve it. Maggie raises an eyebrow. You're sure? Victor would have said, Victor's not here. She almost smiles. I'll have the team start site prep next week. We name it Harold's Corner. No grand announcement, no press conference. I drive to the lot on a Saturday morning, put on a hard hat, and walk the site with the construction foreman, a man named Pete who's been with Westbrook Properties for 22 years. You know, Pete says, kicking a clod of dirt, your grandpa used to walk every site like this. First one there, last one to leave. I drove Victor nuts because Harold would catch things Victor missed. Like what? Like everything. Pete grins. I stand at the edge of the lot and look out across Holden. The furniture store is 3 blocks east. My apartment is 5 blocks north. This is the town that raised me when my family wouldn't. Now I get to build something here. Harold would have liked that. 6 months after the will reading, Victor calls. His voice is unrecognizable, smaller, the kind of voice a man has after he's been alone in a house for too long. I dropped the lawsuit, he says. My lawyer told me straight. There's no case. The trust is airtight. The capacity evaluations are clean. I know, Raymond told me. A long breath. My 800,000 is mostly gone. Legal fees, living expenses. Carol's still at her mother's. I wait. And I've learned that silence is more honest than rushing to fill it. Thea, I want to ask if there's a place for me at the company. I lean back in my chair. Through the office window, I can see the Westbrook Properties sign, the one Harold designed himself, block letters on a green field. You have 20 years of operations experience, Uncle Victor. I'm not going to pretend that doesn't exist. But you'll go through the same hiring process as any external candidate. Application, interview, reference check, no special title, no COO. If you're hired, you start where the role fits. The line is quiet. And Victor, the inflated expense reports from the last 2 years, Maggie flagged them, Harold knew. If you come back, that ledger gets addressed, formally. Another long pause. I understand. His voice catches. And Thea, what I said at the meeting, about your grandfather being confused at the end, about you not belonging at the table. He stops, starts again. He wasn't confused. He was the sharpest person in this family. I knew that. I just didn't want it to be true because it meant he saw me clearly too. That's the closest thing to honesty Victor Westbrook has ever given anyone. Send your resume to HR, I say. And Uncle Victor? Welcome to the process. He lets out a breath that sounds like it's been held for 6 months. 1 year later, Thanksgiving. Harold's house, my house now, technically, though I still can't bring myself to call it that. I kept everything the way he had it: the walnut bookshelves, the carpet he chose for bare feet, the dining table he built from a single slab of reclaimed oak in 1987. His chair sits in the head of the table, empty. A small bunch of yellow chrysanthemums in a mason jar on the seat, his favorite, the ones that grew wild along the workshop fence. My mother arrives early. She comes into the kitchen without being asked and starts peeling potatoes. It's the first time in a decade she's helped prepare a meal in this house. She doesn't say my daughter the CEO to anyone. What she says is, Thea makes a better turkey than I ever did. She means it as a compliment. I'll take it. Nora and Grant come together. PropLink's pilot contract converted to a full 2-year vendor agreement with Westbrook Properties after Maggie's team confirmed the platform reduced maintenance response times by 31%. Nora calls me M now, a small thing, but in a family that measures distance in syllables, it's everything. Victor arrives with Tyler. Victor went through the hiring process: interview panel, skills assessment, reference check. He was offered an operations manager position, not COO. He took it without argument. Tyler finished his electrician apprenticeship last month. He drove here in a truck he bought with his own money. Carol came back to Victor 2 months ago. They're in counseling. Aunt Lillian sits next to me. She squeezes my hand under the table and whispers, "Harold's watching." I look around the room. It's not healed. Diane still can't say sorry. Nora still flinches when someone mentions the envelope. Victor still sits too straight, like a man who's relearning where he fits. But they're here, at this table. And so am I. After dinner, I step outside alone. The workshop sits 20 yards behind the house. A simple structure: corrugated metal roof, plywood walls, Harold insulated himself, a sliding door that sticks in winter. The light switch is a pull chain on the left. I tug it. The single bulb fills the room with warm yellow light. Everything is where he left it. Hand planes on the pegboard, sandpaper rolls sorted by grit in a wooden rack, a lathe in the corner, covered with a canvas tarp, and the workbench, 8 feet of maple, edges worn smooth from decades of his hands pressing against the same spots. I pull up his stool and sit. The room smells like sawdust and linseed oil. It always has. It always will, as long as I keep the door closed and the memories inside. I'm talking to you now. Whoever's listening at 2 a.m. or on a lunch break or driving through somewhere flat and quiet. And I didn't tell this story to brag about $38 million. That money is a responsibility, not a trophy. The thing I actually wanted, the thing money can't replace, was Harold sitting right here, showing me how to read the grain of a piece of wood so the stain goes on even. But he left me something bigger than money. He left me his belief. He chose me when nobody else did. And he was right. Not because I'm brilliant or special, but because I didn't walk away when it was easier to leave. If you're sitting somewhere right now, and the people who are supposed to love you have decided you're not enough, I'm not going to promise you'll get $38 million. But I'll tell you this: your worth isn't decided at anyone's dinner table. It's built in the quiet hours when nobody's watching. Harold taught me that. With sawdust, with patience, with a nod across a Thanksgiving table when nobody else was looking. So here's where I landed. After everything, the envelope, the phone call, the lawyers, the shouting, the silence, I set 3 boundaries for myself. I wrote them on a card and taped it to the inside of my kitchen cabinet, where I see it every morning when I reach for coffee. 1. I don't explain my worth to people who've already decided I have none. If someone needs proof that I belong, the door is open. But I'm done auditioning. 2. I don't let anyone use my past. The drop semester, the missing diploma, the years behind a retail counter, to draw the borders of my future. I chose to help my grandfather. That choice cost me a degree and gave me